Close your eyes. Listen. You are standing in the heart of the Vatican, but the air here does not smell of incense or sanctity. It smells of stale wine, sweat, and heavy beeswax. It is October 30th, 1501. We are deep inside the apostolic palace. The candles are burning low, their wicks drowning in pools of melted wax, casting long dancing shadows against the gold-leafed walls. Usually, this room echoes with the low, rhythmic hum of Latin prayers, the soft shuffle of cardinals' robes. Not tonight. Tonight, the sound is sharper, harder, click, clack, click. It is the sound of hard chestnuts bouncing across the freezing marble floor, a scattered rain of nuts thrown by drunken hands, and following the sound is the friction of skin against stone. 50 women are on their hands and knees. They are scrambling in the dim candlelight, moving between the legs of the most powerful men in Rome, competing for the prizes scattered on the ground. We are standing in the private apartment of Cesare Borgia. The laughter here is raucous, drowning out the quiet humiliation on the floor. From the shadows, an older man watches the spectacle. He leans forward, his face illuminated briefly by the dying fire. From the shadows, a man in white robes watches, smiling. This isn't a brothel in the slums of Rome. This is the home of the Pope. I know what you are thinking. This sounds like slander, a dark fable invented by the enemies of the Church to discredit the Papacy. But we do not rely on rumors. We rely on the man standing quietly in the corner of the room. Enter Johann Burchard. He is not a gossip monger whispering in taverns. He is the Papal Master of Ceremonies. Think of him as a human clock, precise, humorless, obsessive. His job was to ensure that every ritual, every mass, and every procession followed the strict rules of the Vatican. He kept a diary called the Liber Notarum. If you opened it today, you would not find poetry. You would find dry, flat Latin. The ink does not scream, it merely records. Burchard writes with a terrifying lack of emotion. On one page, he details the precise fold of a cardinal's funeral shroud. On the next, he records the events of that October night without a single tremor in his handwriting. He logs the entry efficiently. Quinquaginta meretrices honestae, 50 honest prostitutes. He catalogs the arrival of 50 high-end courtesans into the Pope's son's apartment as if he were counting candles for Mass. Burchard didn't write this to shock future generations. He wrote it because it was just another Tuesday for the Borgias. To understand the Chestnuts, you have to forget everything you know about the Vatican today. Forget the tourists, forget the white smoke, forget the peace. In 1501, the Vatican is not a church. It is a fortress under siege. If you walked the streets of Rome outside these walls, you wouldn't feel holy. You would feel hunted. The city is a rotting maze of ancient ruins and new desperation. The Tiber River runs, thick with filth and plague. In the shadows of the Colosseum, knife fights settle debts faster than any court. And ruling over this chaos is a family that doesn't belong here. The Borgias. They are Spanish, outsiders. And to the old, noble families of Italy, they are invaders. Look up at the stone walls. Carved into the masonry is their crest, not a cross. A bull, a charging red bull. Pope Alexander VI says, the man sitting on the throne isn't running a religion. He is running a dynasty. He treats the papacy like a family business, and business is booming. He uses his children, Cesare and Lucrezia, as currency. He marries them off to dukes and princes, expanding the territory of the bull one wedding at a time. But when you are an outsider sitting on the ultimate throne, you are never safe. The knives are always being sharpened in the dark. To keep power in a city that wants you dead, you don't need prayers. You need leverage. You need fear. And sometimes you need a party. Now, turn your attention to the host. He moves through the room not like a priest, but like a panther. Cesare Borgia. He is the Pope's beloved son, a man who once wore the red robes of a cardinal, only to trade them for the steel armor of a warlord. Imagine a man wrapped in midnight blue velvet, the fabric swallowing the candlelight. He is striking, powerful, but look closer at his face. He often wears a half mask in public. It is a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, smooth and pale. But it serves a purpose. It hides the truth. Beneath that porcelain shell, rumors say his skin is fighting a losing battle. The French disease, syphilis, is beginning to leave its mark, scarring the handsome face that seduced half of Italy. He is the darkness to his father's light. And sitting beside him, perhaps sharing a goblet of wine, is his sister, Lucrezia. History often paints her as a fragile victim, a pawn moved across a chessboard by her father and brother. But look at her tonight. She is not cowering in the corner. She is here, in the apartment, amidst the chaos and the chestnuts. She is the prize judge. She holds the silk tunics and pairs of shoes that will be awarded to the men who perform best in the dark games that follow. She is a Borgia, after all. The laughter between brother and sister cuts through the heavy air. It is an inside joke that only they understand. Cesare didn't organize this banquet just for pleasure. For a Borgia, even pleasure is a display of dominance. The meal ends. The servants do not bring dessert. Instead, they clear the heavy silver platters of untouched boar and pheasant. They strip the tables bare. Then they do something strange. They take the heavy iron candelabras from the tables and set them directly on the marble tiles. The lighting in the room shifts instantly. The glow no longer comes from above. It comes from below. It casts long, distorted shadows that stretch up the walls like grasping fingers. The room becomes a theater. Then the baskets appear. Servants reach in and throw handfuls of roasted chestnuts across the floor. They scatter like hail. They roll into the corners and settle between the candle stands. It does not look like a party game. It looks like feeding time at a menagerie. A command is whispered. The 50 women are told to retrieve them. But the rules of this game are specific. They cannot use their hands. They must crawl. They must scramble. And to ensure nothing hinders their movement, the heavy layers of silk and velvet must come off. One by one, the dresses fall. The room transforms into a sea of moving bodies, weaving through the flickering candlelight, skin pressing against the cold, unforgiving stone. It is a scene of calculated chaos, a human carpet moving at the whims of the Borgia family, while the most holy men in Christendom watch from their high chairs. But the true horror wasn't the nudity. It was what the Pope pulled out to offer the winners. The chestnuts were just the warm-up. The floor is cleared again. The servants step forward, their arms laden with the true motivation for tonight's performance. They display the prizes like offerings on an altar. Tunics woven from the finest Venetian silk, shoes of soft, dyed leather, velvet hats trimmed with gold. In the starving streets of Rome outside these walls, these items are worth a life. Tonight, they are merely tokens. The rules are announced. The men in the room, servants, guards, perhaps even lower nobility, are invited into the circle. The candles on the floor flicker wildly now, catching the sweat on the bodies of the 50 women. The room smells of exertion and musk. It ceases to be a banquet hall. It becomes an arena. The contest is simple, brutal, and devoid of romance. It is a test of endurance. The prizes will go to the man and the woman who can perform the act of carnal knowledge the most times. It is not lovemaking. It is mechanics. It is friction and biology performed on command for an audience of the elite. And the judges, they sit high above the fray. Cesare with his mask, Lucrezia with her silks, and sitting between them, the Holy Father himself. Pope Alexander VI does not turn his eyes to heaven to pray for forgiveness. He does not cover his face in shame. He watches. He adjudicates. He points a ringed finger, signaling a completed act. A servant marks it down. Then another. Then another. The scratching of the quill records the sin as officially as it records a baptism. Imagine the vicar of Christ, the representative of God on earth, keeping a tally. 1, 2, 3. The hours bleed into one another. The excitement that filled the room at the start of the night has curdled. It has turned into something heavy, something wet. The fire in the hearth has died down to glowing embers. The shadows in the room grow longer, swallowing the corners of the apartment. The laughter has stopped. Now, the only sounds are heavy breathing and the slap of skin against skin. The rhythm is not passionate, it is industrial. It is a factory line of pleasure. The women, exhausted, continue their work. The men, driven by the promise of gold and silk, push their bodies to the breaking point. It is a grueling spectacle. Sweat cools on naked backs in the drafty air. The stone floor, once a stage, is now just hard and unforgiving. Finally, the judges are satisfied. The tally is complete. Burchard records the conclusion with the same bureaucratic indifference he used to start the entry. The winners are named. The servants step forward. The prizes, the silk tunics, the soft leather boots, the velvet caps, are handed over. Hands that have spent hours grasping at bodies now clutch their rewards. It is a transaction, a business deal concluded in the flesh. Outside, the sky begins to bruise with purple and gray. As dawn approached over St. Peter's Basilica, the winners clutched their silk tunics. The Pope went to bed, and the silence returned to the Vatican. The sun rose, the apartment was scrubbed. Servants with buckets of lye and water washed away the wine stains. They scraped the wax from the marble. They gathered the stray chestnuts that had rolled under the furniture. By mid-morning, the room was silent. It was holy again. But the story did not vanish with the scrub water. It leaked out. It seeped into the streets of Rome, whispered by the servants, recorded by the diplomats. When Alexander VI finally died, swollen and rotting in the summer heat, the enemies of the Borgias did not just kill the family, they killed the memory. This night, the Banquet of Chestnuts became the weapon they used to bury the Borgia legacy. Enter Pope Julius II, the man who succeeded them. He hated the Borgias with a ferocity that bordered on madness. When he took the throne, he looked at the opulent apartments where the party had taken place. He could not bear to look at the murals. He could not bear to breathe the air. He famously declared that he would not live in the same rooms as the Borgias. He said the walls themselves reeked of sin. He ordered the apartment sealed. Heavy doors were locked. The beautiful frescoes by Pinturicchio were left in the dark. For centuries, the rooms sat empty, gathering dust, a sealed tomb for a dynasty that tried to turn the papacy into a playground. They wanted to erase the night of October 30th. But history has a way of remembering the things we try hardest to forget. They sealed the doors for centuries. But if you listen closely to the history of the Vatican, you can still hear the echo of chestnuts hitting the floor.